feels like the main energy for this week is that new moon solar eclipse in Aquarius, where like I said, you will see in the video where I kind of enrage, or not enrage, but I get this sense of enragement from the collective and wanting to really take this. I almost want to say this humanity. It feels very liberated, like wanting to make progress. This humanitarian kind of energy, and really strongly. It feels very rebellious. It feels almost like a huge protest, humanitarian protest, to really push forward and make progress in a more humanitarian way that is meant for the collective and not for the psychopathic few that have been trying to control us. Just a reminder that this is a global mundane reading and not at all meant to be a personal sun sign or all signs kind of reading. I do not do sun sign readings. All right, let me just jump in. We're going to obviously start here on Sunday the 15th, okay? And of course, let's start off with what's on the top of my list here, where we're going to have Venus in square to Black Moon Lilith. Okay, let me just kind of tune in here and see. Okay. I'm just going to go and say this. This feels like it's related to maybe the Epstein Files release. There's this global, okay, I'm getting this energy of this Sagittarius. Black Moon Lilith is this idea of where we've been outcasted, cast aside or whatever. And what I get a sense of is that collectively we've all been outcasted and cast aside, based on the deceptions of what I'm getting now by Venus and Pisces, the deceptions of these people. And it's coming to a head, okay? As I'm recording this, what's the date today? February 6th. So this, obviously I do these ahead of time, which is why a lot of, when you get through these things through intuitively, it's subject to change due to people's free will. So understand that. That's all in the description if you want to read or understand how it is I do this and whatever, because I'm not going to say it every time, but the information is there on the website as well, whatever, if you need it. Okay, but that's what it feels like to me, is this collectively we've been outcasted by these people. And initially when I tuned in, there's like this enragement. It's also related to the people that are enraged by how badly we've been bent over and fucked. Both figuratively and literally. Yeah. I think I'm just going to leave that at that. Let's move on to here. We're going to have Mars in quintile to Black Moon Lilith. I feel like this relates to the outrage of that. Through this outrage, there's a strong desire for this action towards change. But what I get a sense of is, how the hell are we going to do it? Okay, because what I feel with this is, because this quintile energy is a behind the scenes kind of an energy. So we've been globally outcasted as a collective by psychopathic douchebags who do horrible things to people that they get pleasure out of. Let's just leave it at that. And it's like, what are we going to do? What this Mars feels like is taking action in a humanitarian way. What are we going to do about this to basically help and protect each other from this psychopathic bullshit? But this biquintile feels like this is very much, it's almost like maybe there's stuff being worked on behind the scenes by groups, positive groups of people coming together collectively or something like that. And there's something going on here. But it also can feel like it's very internally. Well, we have to do something, but how or what are we going to do? Because this is insanity. We can't just let we can't just let people get away with this or let this continue to happen, because some of that stuff likely is still happening, whether that guy in his island exists or not. Okay? Yeah, so that's that. We're also going to have, what a start to this video, is the Sun in square to Uranus and Taurus. I feel like this feels monetary, but it also what it feels like is a desire to shift the focus of the money or the power of the money away from these people. What else? Is there something else about that? It feels like it's like there's this outrage. There's a huge outrage. And I mean, from the day that I'm recording this, excuse me, and when I burp like that, it's pay attention to that. So there's an outrage surrounding this, and rightfully so. But what I get is, and we probably don't even know absolutely all the details either, so keep that in mind. But this, it feels outraged, and it feels like we've honestly, like, we've been treated like peasants, we've been treated like shit, we've been treated like crap monetarily. And most of the focus is based on this because this deals with a lot of toxic masculine psychopathic energy that has basically used and abused the collective energy as well as the feminine energy in an abusive, negative way in order to get what it wants from this sick, twisted thing. And it's used money and its control to do it. Okay, I say this with Uranus and Taurus, as Taurus deals with those material things and money. And this Uranian Aquarian energy, that's like, especially with Sun and Aquarius here too, and with that mutual reception between Venus, well, that was with Venus and Uranus, doesn't exist anymore because Venus is in Pisces, where there's that deception aspect, but there was that bit, and we saw that when we saw that huge market shift with, like, I don't understand stocks and shit, but I just get things through intuitively, and then I see in the news, I'm like, oh, that's probably what they were talking about. But it was that huge market shift where there was a bunch of AI sell-offs or whatever, and that it affected Bitcoin, and it dropped suddenly, and there's all this fucking crap. What I said was related to basically that Uranus going direct as well. I'm thinking like that mutual reception, but that what I get a sense of, maybe that was a lead. No, they're saying no. It was that Uranus going direct in Taurus, but there was that aspect of like these big shifts and changes that I had mentioned. But anyway, I'm kind of getting into like previous stuff and new stuff. What I'm just want to focus on here, and what I'm getting that's coming through now, is of course the Sun square Uranus. And it deals with that monetary aspect of how they've used and abused that. And basically this desire for this aspect of change in a much more humanitarian way in relation to the use of that money, and that it needs to be for the people and not for psychopathic corporate douchebags that are just using it to abuse women and children for their own sick, twisted shit. I don't even want to say anything more than that. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Monday the 16th. We're going to have Mercury here. And one thing I do want to mention with what I got when I was like, okay, well, I'm thinking it's related to one aspect, and then they told me no. It's like they bring things through intuitively like this for me. But this is the difference between doing things intuitively and trying to think things with your mind. It's like wanting to kind of relate things with the mind to some aspect, and then it's like, oh wait, no, it's not that. It's actually related to this, and that was something else. Okay, that's why doing this intuitively is a bit different than maybe what a lot of other astrologers can tend to do differently. And I'm laying it out for you here, and you directly saw the difference there as I was doing it. So there you go. Anyway, that's just something that wanted to come through based on what I had just said and what just happened. Anyway, we're also going to have Mercury in this quintile to Uranus as well. Okay, so this feels somewhat internally focused, surrounding figuring out how we're going to make change occur. How can we make this change occur as a collective, as a people, as all of this stuff? How can we do this based on what has happened? Like, what are we going to do? Okay, with this Mercury in Pisces, which is in shadow, okay, it's like this almost like what is going, it's this realization. And I've said this before when Mercury went into shadow, understanding the deception. Okay, realizing the deception. There's things that are coming up where we're going to see a lot of this stuff and realizing, but it's like this internal focus of how are we going to make these changes, and especially as this comes materially, monetarily as well, because it's like, holy fuck, like these people have abused this, like what is going on, okay? Whether they're bringing this through as an example or whether it's directly related to this, could be either way, okay? But that's the message with that. We're also going to have Mercury again as well in trine to Jupiter retrograde. What I get a sense of with this is we want our home back, we want our comfort back, we want our abundance that is relating to that to come back. And there's this awareness here of how it almost feels like we're heading in that direction, but there's also this figuring out of how we're going to do it, how we're going to get there, how this is going to affect us, things like that. But there's this coming through this awareness of this deception, of this how we've been manipulated or deceived in this way. If we want to get back to a space where we feel better, where we feel comfortable, where that doesn't exist, and there's a desire now to try to figure this out, and also what really feels like to bring it back. Okay? We're also going to have Venus here in this semi-square to Chiron. What I get a sense of is this is a wound to our collective individuality and sovereignty of ourselves. And it's the deceptions of other people that have caused this wound, of this pain, of this hurt. What I feel is like we're not going to allow it to happen again. Okay? But that's what's coming up with that really strongly, is that there's these people that have deceived us into causing this collective pain and hurt regarding our individuality, our individual sovereignty, freedom, etc. That's the 16th. Let's move on to Tuesday the 17th. And of course, this is when we're going to have this new moon solar eclipse in Aquarius. So this is eclipse season. It is intense, and then we've got a lot of stuff going on in the world. There's this Mercury retrograde that's dealing with this aspect of, or not retrograde yet, but shadow and retrograde that will likely, I haven't tuned into the retrograde yet, but at least the shadow. But I said before, it'll come up during the retrograde. So likely to deal with this deceptive stuff and bringing awareness, and how the fuck are we going to deal with this? Okay. New moon in Aquarius. I feel what I get is this almost like this protest, like rebellious, like we need change. We're not putting up with this anymore. This has to shift. It feels backed by a very there's a positive energy to this kind of an outrage. Okay, when I say this though, please be mindful of, don't be like smashing and destroying and hurting other people that don't deserve it. Okay, this isn't a cue for us to be violent or whatever, but obviously we have to call things out call them out on what they need to be called out on, and people need to be held accountable for their actions. Hands down. Okay, but how we go about doing this is also a reflection of us. Do we want to stoop to their level, or do we want to do this in an appropriate way? Okay? Not saying they shouldn't be held accountable, because they need to be for what they've done. Again, whether this is being used as an example or what is really going on here. Okay, but how we deal with it is going to be a direct reflection of us. And we need to understand the anger, the outrage, etc. But we also need to deal with this in an appropriate way and begin to move forward in an appropriate way so that this stuff does not happen again. But yes, what I feel is like this it's like an outrage, but it's this pivotal shifting point towards this collective, I kind of want to say sovereignty, and this movement forward to be like, we're not going to take this anymore. We're not going to deal with this anymore. We can't handle this anymore. This enough is enough. It's this kind of an energy, but it's this very rebellious, progressive, wanting to move and make progress in a more humanitarian direction instead of what has occurred. So we're also going to have Venus here in conjunction to the North Node and direct opposition to the South Node. What I get a sense of is this is needing to have the right people in place to be able to properly move forward and getting rid of the ones that, shouldn't be there. What we once thought was practical. And what again is how they've manipulated us, abused us, deceived us, all of those things. And we were made to believe that they were there helping us in practical ways for practical reasons, and that these things and things in place that they put in place were there for practical reasons, but they need to go along with those things because we need appropriate people in place to move forward in a new direction. Again, I feel this relates to this Mercury shadow, which will become retrograde, in understanding how we've been deceived, this aspect of deception, etc., and how an understanding that, the direction it's been set up for us behind the scenes in a lot of certain ways, that this is where we need to go and move forward in, away from this old world stuff that is not serving us. The old world is dying. The old paradigm is dying. We're going to continue to see our world fall apart. It's just going to happen because it needs to go. What we once thought was practical is no longer practical. It was no longer going to be practical. The old world has to fall. It has to fall apart. And we're seeing through things like the Epstein files and likely more stuff that how that world was run and what was really actually going on was not for our best interests. And that the direction that we're actually heading in looking at this and dealing with this and honestly moving away from that kind of stuff is what is going to be better for us. Okay? It's an unknown path because we don't know or understand it, because we've been deceived into believing what these practical things, what we once thought was practical, was all there was, when really there wasn't. We were manipulated into believing a lot of things, deceived, etc., so that very rich people could get away with and do whatever of the bullshit that they fucking wanted at the expense of everybody else. And get away with what they were doing, when they can't continue to get away with it any longer. Okay? yeah. That's that. So let's move on to Wednesday the 18th. This is, of course, when we're going to have the sun move into Pisces. Instinctively, this just feels very much like Pisces to me. And I say this about every solar ingress that occurs. It just feels like the emphasis of that sign or the illumination of that sign. This does not relate to, and I say this every time, you are more than just your sun sign. Do not consider your sun sign being like, oh, I'm a Cancer, oh, I'm this. Really, you shouldn't be saying that, or you shouldn't even be, looking at that. You should say, look, this is my birthday, this is my time I was born, this is my chart. You take into account all aspects of it, because, look at this. Look at this. And I don't even have all of the minor aspects turned on, but this is both major and minor aspects that are occurring here. You think this is just your sun sign? All of these aspects, all of these planetary placements, planetary nodes, all of this stuff in this chart? Really? You are more than just this point. That's what I'm getting at here. You are a unique individual person. Your higher self wanted to create the character of you to play in this lifetime for whatever reason, for whatever purpose, for whatever desire, even if it's just to have experiences from that perspective. Okay? And it's not just about your sun sign. It plays a role, yes, but sometimes it can actually be a very minor one. Anyway, sun comes into Pisces, so we're now more highlighted with this Pisces energy. The other thing I'm getting is this highlighting more of this deceptive kind of an energy and how we've been deceived. All right? So that's how it's being used, at least in this time frame. Okay? We're also going to have Mercury here in sextile to Juno. It feels like there's communication between new partnerships and new contracts, etc., that are building, and these new commitments that are coming through based on what has been realized and found out and all of these things, because these things need to shift and change. And this deals with, what I get with this Capricornian energy is this deals with these things that are very foundational and very much in control of a lot of things, but that's what needs to shift in terms of those partnerships, commitments, those things, but it's based off of what we've kind of realized or are beginning to realize and will continue to realize through this energy of these changes that need to be made. I don't think this is going to be a standard Mercury retrograde. This is going to be making us very aware, I feel, of a lot of things, especially with it being preceded by that new moon solar eclipse in Aquarius, and then we're going to have that full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. Okay, so we're in eclipse season. There's an intensity here, and it's really wild and crazy, but it needs to be, because the old world does need to die. I'm just going to say it does need to die, because it never had our best interests at heart. And there's a lot of people that are beginning to see that now. There's been a lot of people that have been shouting from the rooftops already of all the sick, twisted things that have been happening with, celebrities, with people of political power, all of this stuff. And now we're actually seeing the evidence of it, that, yeah, this stuff actually has happened, and that these people that have been shouting it from the rooftops actually had legitimate things to say, but people didn't believe it because they were so manipulated into the deception that they didn't think that would be possible. When in reality, it is, and it was. Anyway, we're also going to have the sun here in this semi-sextile to Saturn, now in Aries. Okay. What I feel, okay, and I talked about this positive masculine energy with this Neptune in Aries, positive masculine divine energy helping, and with this Saturn there, these new structures, these new things. But this Saturn is almost helping to set more appropriate boundaries towards our own proper individuation, sovereignty, etc., regarding this deceptive stuff that has come out and be like, look, no, no, we're not gonna let you deal with this. We're not gonna let you get away with this, all of this stuff kind of a thing, right? So that's what I feel is really coming through with this. I don't know, like, this feels very strongly coming through related, whether, like I said, whether they're using this as an example or whether it's directly related to the Epstein stuff. Although, like I said, at the time of recording this, that's still kind of fresh. We're seeing new things, but due to the millions of documents that exist, there's likely still more things to be discovered at the time of recording this, and maybe that's what this relates to. I really have no idea. I'm just saying the message as it comes. So take it as that. Okay. That's Wednesday the 18th. Let's move on to Thursday the 19th. We're going to have the Sun here as well in the semi-sextile to Neptune. I feel like this is a very supportive energy in, like I said, that supportive masculine energy in dealing with a lot of these things. Helping us to see, to work through this deception, understand it. This is very much Pisces bringing awareness to itself and saying, these people have used my energy in a very wrong way. They used it for deception in a negative way, not a positive way. Sometimes you don't want something to be seen because it's either being worked on for a positive thing or it's not for your benefit. If you knew about it, it could alter things in a negative way. Like, there's ways in which it can be used in a way that is positive, okay? However, this was being used in a very negative way, and this Pisces energy is like, okay, so along with this divine masculine energy that's using this in a way that's like, okay, we're not going to let you get away with this anymore. We're going to allow you to see how you've been deceived. We're going to allow you to see and understand what really has been going on behind the scenes. This Pisces energy is now helping you to understand how it was being used in a very negative way, understand itself and how it was used in this negative way, but it's doing it in a positive way to say, hey, look, like, I'm going to show you this now. I'm going to make you aware of this now so that you can understand it and change it. Remember, Pisces is a mutable sign, so we're dealing with this changeable energy. Through this awareness, through this deception, that all of a sudden becomes revealed into reality that's like, oh, but there you can, that it's pliable, we can make changes to this now. It's like, okay, you can choose a new path, right? And that new path, as you can see, we have the North Node in Pisces. We're heading in an unknown direction, but we get to kind of create that in going forward now, okay? We're also going to have the Sun in this sesqui-square to Jupiter retrograde as well. This understanding of where our abundance has been held back in terms of our comfort, in terms of our home, in terms of those kinds of things. And it feels like it's no longer going to be tolerated in that way. Because that deception is now awakening that understanding, or the awareness of that deception is now awakening that understanding. Excuse me. So maybe pay attention to that as well. We're also going to have Mercury in semi-square to Pluto here. So what I get with this is through this awareness, wanting to make these huge, big changes in progress and transformation, ultimate transformation and progress. We're dealing with this Scorpio energy. This awareness has been brought forth. You're seeing it for what it is, and you ultimately want to end it, kill it, transform it, and move on to something better. This wants to be transformed, changed in the name of progress, in the name of humanitarianism, in the name of all things positive, really, to move forward in an appropriate way through the awareness that is being brought up, coming through in this way, through this Mercury shadow, etc. The awareness through this of this deception, etc. All right, we're also going to have here Mars in biquintile to Jupiter. Okay, so we can see it here, Mars in biquintile to Jupiter retrograde. This feels like planning action steps towards appropriate change in a humanitarian, progressive kind of a way, towards bringing back this aspect of abundance, comfort, this aspect of making this place our home and making it a good home, and not what it was to these weird, creepy people. Okay? I'm just going to leave that at that. Let's move on to Friday here, the 20th, where we're going to have this exact conjunction of Saturn conjunct Neptune. Okay? What I feel like is this is a very strong, not only divine, this feels like a very strong masculine, I want to say magnetic masculine support. Now, magnetic energy is similar to a feminine energy. So magnetic is like feminine but is not feminine. Electric is like masculine but is not masculine. So you can have magnetic masculine and magnetic feminine, and electric masculine and electric feminine. It's kind of like the houses in astrology. First house can relate to the aspect of Aries but is not Aries. Second house can relate to aspects of Taurus but is not Taurus, etc., etc., etc. Okay? So, and that is my guidance on the houses, okay? I know some people think of it in different ways or whatever, but my guidance on the houses is just specifically that. It's a fine-tuning dial basically related to the same energy as the sign that it corresponds to. And that's what that magnetic and feminine and magnetic, how it relates to feminine, electric, how it relates to masculine. So this is a very magnetic masculine energy, as in it attracts, okay? But it's still a masculine supportive energy in attracting these changes. But what I get a sense of with these more appropriate structures and boundaries and those kinds of things, it's attracting that energy in to be utilized in a more appropriate kind of a way with this Saturn-Neptune conjunction here. All right. I don't think there's anything more to say on that. So we're also going to have Saturn and Neptune will also be in this quintile to Juno as well. And I feel like this is relating to creating more positive, committed partnerships and contracts on a more foundational scale, which is relating globally, of course. But this is these foundational things, these aspects of control, etc., where it's shifting this control, new partnerships to shift control, new boundaries, etc., and creating these new partnerships to shift this control, to shift this in new ways. And like I said, there's that divine magnetic masculine support. Okay, I specifically guided to say magnetic. So this isn't necessarily outwardly focused actions. This is very magnetic, as in it's attracting this stuff in. And it feels like there will be people, actual people, that are going to be taking action on these things based on this magnetic masculine attraction. But there's this supportiveness to this masculine energy, okay, that is helping in this way. All right, let's move on then to Saturday the 21st. And again, like last Saturday, we have got nothing major peaking here. So that is the energy for this week. I appreciate all of you that have made it this far in the video. If you want to see this on a personal level, you can get a personal reading with me. You can head on over to my website, mysticalmark.ca, or check out all the reading links in the description below. If you want to get in touch with me, contact me for any reason regarding a reading, or maybe suggestions surrounding videos, or want to comment directly in any way, you can hit me up through my DMs on either Instagram or TikTok. However, due to their social media DMs, there isn't a guarantee that I will reply. However, I will do my best to read absolutely everything. You can also reach out you can also reach out to me via email. That is in the description below as well. Thank you all for watching. I hope to see you all in next week's video. Take care, everyone. Bye.